In this jar, I'm holding a jar of water. This represents someone's inner world, their thoughts, their emotions, and their mental state, constantly moving, shifting, and reacting to what's happening around them, whether they're calm or crashing out. See, because that's what life feels like sometimes. Messy, overfull, and hard to contain. In this hand, I'm holding the space for action. The steps, the choices, and the decision to move life forward. What if the reason why so many students and adults feel stuck isn't a lack of motivation, but too much chaos inside to take the first step? See, most of us feel that action should come first, and that calm and clarity should somehow follow. You ever notice how we glorify the hustle, the grind, and the no sleep? I am definitely guilty on that one. So when people don't move forward, we tend to push harder on them, add pressure, and demand results. But here's what's really happening. Most adults aren't worried about motivation. They are struggling with overload. Some students are carrying adult responsibilities, working to keep the lights on at home. Some students are carrying fear and doubt about their future. Can you imagine how that feels? And some are drowning in school. Not because they don't care, but because they don't know how to ask for help. And that assumption falls short when we expect people to act while they're overwhelmed. Because instead of moving forward, they shut down, they procrastinate, and they freeze, even if they care deeply about the outcome. They start to say to themselves, what's wrong with me? I'm not good enough. I suck. Why can't I get anything right? Is anyone seeing this? But there's something that we missed. Action doesn't create calm. Calm creates action. And there's hope. In 2023, a meta-analysis on breathwork studies found that controlled breathing practices significantly reduces the stress and anxiety across multiple clinical trials. And it wasn't because they were trying any harder. It was because their insides were settled enough to think clearly again. And that's all that we need. Now, I know this firsthand. Over the past decade, I've worked with thousands of students, many of them overwhelmed, some of them shut down, and most of them convinced that something is wrong with them. But here's what I learned. I learned that in order to move forward, we do need a moment of calm and one next step. By a show of hands, who here likes to dream big? Okay. Looks like I'm in the right room. We all want to dream big. We all do. But dreaming big doesn't mean that we push harder. It all starts with a simple rhythm. First, we breathe. Not to solve everything, but just to settle. And then we identify one thing to get us to the next level. And that could be writing an email, that could be having a conversation, or that could be simply just making a decision. And then we execute and we go. We all want to dream big. So remember the B.I.G. We breathe, we identify, and we go. Remember earlier I told you that this represents someone's inner world, their overload on the inside. That's what it looks like. Thoughts are colliding. Just imagine the stress of losing a job, the stress of making ends meet. Just think about it for a moment. Everything feels urgent. And then we feel numb. Have we all felt that? Do you all recall that study that I mentioned earlier on breathwork? I want us all to experience the power of breathing together. On a count of 3, let's do it. 1, 2, 3. Inhale. Exhale. Again. Inhale. Exhale. You see, when our insides settle, that's when clarity begins. Now this marble here, this represents that one step that you all have to take. That one step that will take you to the next level. That one thing that has been pressing you. And that sound matters. It matters because progress becomes visible. It becomes countable. And it becomes repeatable. See this? That's how momentum begins. Not with some magical breakthrough, but with permission to start. I want to share a quick story. Last year, I was working with a high school student. I love her. But she hadn't submitted an assignment in weeks. I'm telling you, weeks. So for any teacher, they'll say, man, that student, they don't care about their grades. They don't care about their future. But what we didn't know is that that student was carrying a heavy emotional weight. Her father had moved on and started a new family without her. And so unfortunately, school and grades were one of the first to slip. So before we talked about grades, dreams, goals, we took a moment to disconnect and just breathe for a few moments. And then after that, I said, hey, I want you to identify just one small thing, one teeny tiny step, something that she wants to do. And I did that because I wanted to teach her, and I wanted to teach her how to plan when life seems upside down, a skill that she could use long after our mentorship session. So she goes to me, Miss. They call us Miss for some reason. Miss, I think I want to write my teacher an email. And I want to let her know that I care. I really do. And maybe I could schedule a meeting with her. I looked at her and I said, let's go. Go for it. And so she did. She wrote that email. And that email turned into a meeting. That meeting turned into a plan. That plan turned into momentum. And that momentum led her to earn a B+ in school. When before, she had an F. Now, it wasn't because she worked any harder. It was because her mind was settled enough to think, plan, and execute. The missing piece isn't effort, and it isn't motivation. It's clarity. And clarity doesn't come from pressure. It comes from calm. Calm creates clarity, and clarity creates momentum. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the missing piece. Thank you.